seminar conducted with PhilSci Hub. So without further ado, I would like Sir Allan to take the floor. Are you ready, sir?
Okay, I guess I'm ready, Ma'am Renabeth. Thank you very much for that concise and very good introduction. So can I start now?
Yes,
I
sir.
guess so. Okay, let me just prepare my slide presentation. And I guess I should go back to Zoom and share my slide. Okay, let me see. I guess that's it. So can you see my slide now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so thank you very much. I'm going to turn off the video after some time because this would consume some bandwidth and I don't want my connection to be a little bit problematic. So I would like to thank the organizers of this program, including all the members of the PhilSci Hub and our colleagues from the Institute of Physics. Last week there was a typhoon and we are grateful to everyone for making it to this program today after the rescheduling. The talk today is about some sort of compactification. This is the word that we usually use in high energy physics, but I guess I'm trying to laymanize the term. So compactification of many ideas in 1 hour. But hopefully the audience and the speaker alike, that's me, will be able to learn something about this talk, namely about the polarization of physics, that is FCI, the force concept inventory, gender gap, and cognitive reflection test on global and local courses. Now, to be clear to our audience and to everyone here, I am not a graduate of an education degree, but very much interested in physics education research. And as you can see here, I'm a member of the astrophysics, also mentioned by Ma'am Renabeth, particle physics and nuclear physics research cluster. So as a side advertisement, we are welcoming strong-willed students to select the BS Applied Physics program. If they are interested in physics offered by our institute, and they might join the APN cluster or other research clusters under the same wing. We are also offering the MS Physics, and next semester we are going to start offering the MS Applied Physics and PhD in Applied Physics. So let me move on to the next slide. That is the basis of this talk. So we have 3 papers here displayed on your screen. And the first paper is about cognitive reflection test. It was the latest paper in 2020. Of course, we have also ongoing studies on physics education. This was done after I returned in the Philippines in 2018, 2017, so 2020. And we have also 2 other papers here with Mr. Wade Naylor. Dr. Wade Naylor was my supervisor when I was a PhD student in Osaka University, Japan. So I was a teaching assistant of Wade, facilitating students in answering their assigned activities during class meetings. So while I was doing my research works and taking courses on particle physics and cosmology in Japan, my side job was a teaching assistant with a side research on physics education. So they are being conducted simultaneously. And our students under the combined chemistry biology program were the subjects of our studies. The last paper in 2020 was done here, as I mentioned, in the Philippines after I returned here in 2017, 2018. I can't remember, it's 2017. Okay. So to start with, let me state that physics is fun, at least for most people with their first encounter in physics by video promotions on YouTube, maybe on Facebook and Twitter. Most likely it is fun, I guess, for most people. And it is most likely the most fundamental of all of sciences. If we include astrophysics, then physics is considerably the oldest science of all. The wonders of physics, the fruits of our labor, are everywhere, as we may see. We have rocket ships, as can be seen in this slide, and we have also these smartphones that nowadays are ubiquitous, and we have powerful computers. Of course, smartphones can be classified as some sort of computers. We have the global positioning system. The global positioning system is used when you are using Google Maps or Apple Maps or some other mapping system that uses the GPS system. Now, all of them would not be possible without physics. And in a sense, physics is practically useful, it is interesting, and it can be a fun thing to study. So imagine the first time that you learned the experiment of generating electricity. So this one that you see on the slide is a hydroelectric power plant. But in the high school laboratory of physics, we would see some sort of a coil of metal or wire, and you can connect the two ends of that coil of wire to an LED, that is a light emitting diode that can easily light up when we run a short, should I say, sufficient amount of voltage across the end of your LED. So that's the demonstration of a Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. You slide a magnet inside that coil of wire, and if that magnet would sufficiently change the flux in the system, then the LED can light up. The same principle is employed in this hydroelectric power plant. So we have here this water with associated mechanical energy that turns our turbines connected to a magnetic system. And that magnetic system, together with this rotation of our turbine, they change the flux associated with the system, the magnetic flux, and you produce electricity. So we have also refraction of light through a prism, quite a simple experiment where you can have your transparent ballpoint pen and you can put that one, place that one near a window. The light coming from the sun can actually pass through that ballpoint pen body, and the light can split into 7 colors, the rainbow. So pretty much explains the formation of rainbow. And on top of that, we have the wonders of time travel, not yet realized, at least at the macroscopic scale. And we have also the notion of black holes. We have teleportation, quantum computing, very active nowadays in terms of research, and our attention from a practical and curiosity-driven inclinations. We have also gravitational wave with many prospective applications in the future. And who knows, we might be able to use gravitational wave in the future to actually communicate with alien civilization. So these things continue to spark our interest in physics, possibly for future use, as I've mentioned, future practical use, or merely a satisfaction of our supposedly insatiable desire to understand ourselves and the nature itself. So having said this, physics is not necessarily easy, although there are a lot of people who are claiming that physics is an easy subject. It is possibly not, at least when you dig deeper, it requires a lot of attention. Students joining our research cluster, the astrophysics, particle physics, and nuclear physics cluster, are reminded that all the subjects of Einstein's general relativity, astrophysics, and subatomic particles can be very interesting. The mathematics and the twist of physics logic can be quite painful, well, a little bit bloody, so to speak. In fact, the difficulty of physics is not unique to these subfields, as the entire gamut can be quite challenging. Even the introductory part involving Newtonian mechanics can be challenging, although sometimes we claim to understand the subject matter, but if we try to dig deeper into the subject matter, we see that there is some sort of preconception, misleading preconception, or possibly misleading conception, that is a misconception about the ideas in physics. So, for instance, when you study physics, you'll be dealing with the third law, the second law, and the first law of motion, the core of your Newtonian mechanics. And a student may be able to recite fully the third law of motion. Informally, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So that's quite an informal statement. So, but the keyword there should be equal, and another keyword is opposite. But if we dig deeper in this law, a good number of our students, and probably even some of us, do not actually understand this law and the immediate consequence or the implications of this law. So if we ask our students, for instance, if you have a housefly that collides with a truck, which one exerts a larger amount of force? By common sense, it appears that the truck exerts a larger amount of force against a fly. because the fly would be experiencing greater damage in this sort of encounter between a truck and a fly, possibly if you have a high velocity truck. And the resulting negative acceleration, so to speak, of the truck would be negligible. So why is it that the third law states that we have an equal and opposite reaction? So if we jump from the surface of the Earth, assuming the Earth is a complete rigid body, a perfect rigid body, the Earth should move by a certain amount because of that force that we exert on the ground. But because the planet Earth is far more massive compared to us, the motion of the Earth would be negligibly small when we jump off the surface of this planet. So these kinds of things are quite intriguing in nature, but quite interesting. That gives us an insight about the operation of our mind. You know, our mind is one of the most difficult puzzle to solve in addition to physics. And in this talk, we are trying to relate that sort of misconception about the way we conceive of understand things and the way we interpret the way physics works as it applies to things around us. So this talk will center around the four ideas here, basically three ideas only, but we have extended this one a little bit to 5 parts in order to have more flesh in our discussion. So the first one we're going to study, or not study, this is not a lecture class, I'm sorry. We're going to share a little bit about the so-called the force concept inventory. And then we are going to move on to the polarization of student responses. After that, we have the gender gap and polarization. So the fourth one is cognitive reflection test. And the fifth one is about the cognitive reflection test and the polarizing choices. So the central idea of this talk is about the so-called polarization in relation to the so-called force concept inventory. The immediate response would probably about electromagnetism, but this polarization, I should become clear later, is not about electromagnetism. It is a polarization, so a phenomenon, so to speak, that is associated to a subset of the so-called force concept inventory. So let's start with so-called force concept inventory, the FCI. So the FCI, or the Force Concept Inventory, was developed by Hastings, Halloun, Wells, and Schwackhammer in 1985 to assess students' conceptual understanding of Newtonian mechanics. So in identifying student points of confusion or assessing student performance, we certainly need a test. And FCI is a well-crafted test that has passed a good test of time. So it is composed of a set of 30-item multiple-choice questions, mainly focusing on force and kinematics. In fact, there is, I think, no computation, no numerical computation in the FCI. It's mostly conceptual in nature, but you'll have to really dig into your understanding of physics to answer properly the questions in the FCI. So the authors have tested this and retested them several times. We have also a multitude of physics educators around the world who are using the so-called FCI for their pre-tests and post-tests, trying to assess student performance, student understanding before the course starts, and the student understanding after the class, at the end of class. So it's been about 4 decades now, and so it is considered a de facto standard for concept inventories in introductory mechanics. That is the nature of the FCI, while to some extent a concise nature. So let us try to consider here an example of a question in the FCI. This is not the exact question in the FCI, as we are not allowed, or should I say, we should not be publishing the question in the FCI because students would probably know the questions in the FCI. And if you answer the question in the FCI, then they would be already prepared to answer that one. And that would not be a good instrument for the concept inventory. So what we are displaying here in our slide is a sample similar question. So in this slide, you have here a pendulum, instantaneous screenshot, so to speak, of this pendulum from a higher point. So let me just read the question. So consider a pendulum attached to the ceiling at point O, swinging from a previous higher point to its current location P, that is point P. So we ignore here air resistance, and the question is, which of the following forces are acting on the pendulum at the instant shown? Number one, you have a downward force of gravity. That one is pulling the pendulum down, bob down. And you have the tensional force due to the string from point P to O, that is force 2. And you have force 3, the force along the direction of its motion, that is P along the circular arc, tangential to that circular arc. Now we have 5 choices here, as in the FCI. You have A, 1 only, the downward force of gravity. B, 2 only, tensional force due to the string from point P to point O. And we have 3 force along the direction of its motion, that is letter C, 1 and 3, letter D, 1 and 2, and letter E, 1, 2, and 3. So for physics educators, our teachers, the questions in the FCI are quite easy to answer. But for many students, these supposedly easy questions can be challenging. In one of our FCI results, in fact, less than half of the students scored above 50% pre-test with slight improvement post-test. And if you would look at the papers of those original authors of the FCI, they have some results with more severe cases, so to speak, from known universities, well-known universities, with some involving an average score of about 25% in the FCI. So the idea is that they ought to be simple. The questions ought to be simple and maybe to some extent simple. But the questions are so formulated to dig deeper into student understanding of the notion of force, the notion of kinematics and Newtonian mechanics, and their probable interconnection, so to speak. And that will allow us to gain an insight about whether students really understand what we are talking about. It's not even about the computation itself. It is about the conceptual understanding of students. So as I've mentioned, this is the main point. It looks like things are easy to answer. If you look at the 30 question in the FCI, you can answer it readily. Well, for physics educators, it might be easy to answer it within just 5 to 10 minutes or so, looking at the questions. But for students, they are given around 30 minutes, so 1 minute per question, so to speak. And the questions can be challenging. The thing is, some students might be thinking, oh, it's quite easy. The answer is already known to me upon seeing number is letter C, and number 2 is letter D, so very, very fast, until you realize that your answers are mostly wrong. So the results of the FCI may compel us to improve the learning experience of our students, and of course devise means by which we would be able to further enhance the learning experience of our students, and of course the learning experience of the instructor or the teacher to improve the process of understanding, so to speak, the ideas about physics. So who are the subjects of our study? The subjects of our study were international students at Osaka University. The university was offering, I'm not so sure, I guess they're still offering this combined chemistry biology program. It is a 4-year degree program. And our data, we had only 50 students within a 3-year span. So the program is able to accept less than 20 students per academic year. And the administration of the class, we have the lecture, homework, in-class activities assisted by the teaching assistant during the one of the academic years was me. And we have Wade Naylor also as the instructor. And we administered the pre-test and post-test involving the FCI. Now, the FCI has been studied, is being continued to be studied for about the ideas regarding misconception and preconception. And to be clear, our discussion for today is not about how to cure misconception or preconception. Rather, our main point is the existence of some misconceptions regarding the 6 questions in the so-called FCI. So our study dealt with the so-called polarizing questions. We'll be explaining this one in a little bit. So we identified questions number 5, number 11, number 13, number 18, number 29, and number 30 in the FCI. So based on my experience, these are the most, 5 or 6 of the most difficult questions in the FCI. So what is the nature of the so-called polarizing questions? So these questions are simply asking one question. So the question is, what are the forces acting on a body? As simple as that. You have a situation being presented by the question, and you have a body in focus, and you are asked, what are the forces acting on a body? This sounds very easy in nature, but this is part of the foundation of understanding and solving problems in mechanics. So before you're able to fully solve the dynamics of a system, you must identify first the forces acting on a given body. Once you're able to identify those forces, or along the way, you draw the free body diagram, and then you solve for the second law, and you find the acceleration, velocity, or probably kinematical quantities like time and velocity associated with the system. So it starts with the identification of forces. And those 6 questions are merely asking to identify the forces acting on the system. So with this said, we have this data based on our study. We have here the 6 questions now relabeled as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we have identified this. Initially, we did not actually know this so-called polarizing choices and the polarizing questions. We perform item analysis as usual in physics education research about student responses. Well, the first thing that we did was actually study the FCI as a whole, the 30 questions, and then we calculated the not passing rate, but the average score pre-test, and then we have post-test. And the gain in the system is quite low. It's around 18% only. So we were actually planning to publish that result, but with the so-called interactive engagement in the system and our techniques of implementing some sort of ways of educating our students. But then because the gain was not so high, we were having some sort of, should I say, trouble, quote unquote, how we're going to convince the reviewer to accept this paper with a relatively minimal gain. So we have to dig into the data further and try to see what could be something cool about our work, about our data. And then upon analysis, we see that there are 6 questions that students find quite difficult. In fact, 5 out of 6 belong to the top 10 most difficult questions in some of our in our data. In many of our, we have many samples from 1 and then 2nd, and then back here in the Philippines, and students find this 6 questions, 5 out of 6 questions to be the most difficult questions. And we learned along the way that of these questions, we have 30 questions. There are 6 questions wherein the student responses are centered about only two choices, so to speak. Meaning, majority of students answer 2 choices. So you have here for question 1, for instance, you see this question 1. And for question 1, we have here students choose option B, and you have here option D. So this option B and option D, 70% of the students chose this option. So the remaining students simply chose the other options. The same goes for your question 2, and we have here question 3. For question 2, we have C and D as the main choices. We initially call them dominant answers. And for question 3, we have C and D. For question 4, we have B and D. And for question 5, we have B and D as well. And you have here question 6, we have C and E. By the way, those marks here, you have B here. This is the correct answer in this case, and this is the incorrect answer. Well, all the rest are incorrect, of course, but for some reason, we have this pairing of our choice. So number 2, you have letter C as the incorrect answer, and you have here letter D as the correct answer. So then we have this so-called polarization in analogy with polarization in electromagnetism, wherein you have charge polarization, you have positive charge on one side, and you have negative charge on the other side. So to just repeat the main point, because majority of the students cluster about only two choices, in analogy to charge polarization in electromagnetism, we call them polarizing choices, and the corresponding questions, the so-called polarizing questions. So what is the nature of these polarizing choices? So it's quite simple, in fact. The polarizing choices are composed of two options involving a set of forces. Remember that the questions ask only one basic thing: identify the forces acting on a given body. So of this couple of choices, one is composed of the right set of forces. So that option is the correct answer. And the other one is the set of correct forces acting on the system, but with an additional force or set of forces. Those can be fictitious forces or some other forces that do not really act on a body under consideration. So the students are then confused when there is this addition of a wrong force in a set of correct forces acting on a system. So to be clear, we have the pair of polarizing choices. The choices are composed of the right choice and another choice that is effectively a superset of the right choice. So let us try to see this one from our question earlier. So you consider a pendulum attached to the ceiling at point O, as pointed out earlier, and we ignore air resistance. The pendulum is, of course, swinging back and forth, and at the instant shown here, you have the pendulum bob coming from this direction, and we have here your screenshot, the instantaneous screenshot, so to speak. We have here, the question is, what are the forces acting on the pendulum at the instant shown? So we have here the tension, we have here the gravity, and we have here the force along the direction of motion. So the options then A, B, C, D, E. So you have option 1, we have 1 only, and we have here option 2, we have 2 only. So I mean to say only the tensional force due to the string from point P to O. And we have 3, force along the direction of its motion. So this one is illustrated here in this slide. So you have here a force along this direction, and you have here the force of gravity in a downward manner. So it's actually interesting to know the thoughts of our audience about this question. Which one is the correct answer? So in this case, the correct answer is in fact letter D. We have here a force of gravity downward, and we have here a force, as a tensional force due to the string from point P to point O. The addition of this force in the set of choices, so this one causes polarization in student response. In that case, majority of students choose a D, and of course you have here the choice E that is actually some sort of a choice that confuses our students. So we then reason out the following. So when facing a problem requiring the identification of forces acting on a given body, several forces may come to mind. And when there are only a few forces acting on a given body, it is possible to have a good idea that includes all the valid forces plus the extra forces that are wrong. Whereas the matter of picking up the valid forces and putting it in the category of valid forces may be easily done after a careful analysis, the matter of categorizing the extra forces as correctly acting or not can be quite problematic in nature. In other words, students have good insight, as what we found about the forces acting on the system. But when you add something into the system, I mean, you add some sort of include a fictitious force or an invalid force acting on the system, supposedly not acting on the system, or maybe just an extension of the other force that is authentically acting on the system, students tend to be confused. And this one can cause a problem in drawing the force, the free body diagram, and finding the correct dynamics of the system. So that is our conclusion based on misleading ontological categorization for this so-called polarization of physics on global courses in Osaka University. That finishes the first part. Okay? So let us now move on to the second part. The second part is again polarization, but we're going to deal here with the so-called gender gap. And for our information, there is a gender difference in the mean FCI scores, the force concept inventory scores. And males tend to score higher, about 10%. This is based on the result of Madsen, McKagan, and Sire. I don't know how to pronounce their name correctly, in 2013. And we have also further studies about this one. So let me just present to you the data from Madsen. I have cut this from the paper, but there is another set of data following this one. The blue ones are for males, and the green bars are for females. So we have the University of Wisconsin, Indiana University, up to Manchester, United Kingdom. So I think IE is interactive engagement. And we have here the scores of males and females. And you have here this correct on pretest, you have here percentage. You have 99, 184, and so on and so forth. So you have here this error bar is the standard deviation. So the gender difference in the pretest and post-test, we have 13%. And for some weird reason, so to speak, we have here 14%. It even increases post-test. So this is a well-known idea or results associated with the FCI. Now, we would like to also explore that idea when we deal with the subset of FCI, that is the polarizing questions. And we have here the subject again of our study. We have relatively more students here. We have international students again. From Osaka University. We have the students from the Combined Chemistry and Biology program. It's an English program, by the way, offered in English. And we have now 70 students from a 3-year span of study. We have now a 4-year span. And the administration is effectively the same. We have the lecture, the homework, in-class activities. We have 1 hour, 1.5 hour class, in fact, only for 1 week. And the rest would be student engagement with their homework, and possibly consultation with the instructor. And yeah, they are answering the so-called mastering physics. So that's the next slide. There is a gender difference in mean scores, as what we found, of about 15%. It's actually larger than 13% and 14%, but not statistically very large, significant difference. In fact, based on our t-test, although there is a difference in the mean scores, the difference is not statistically significant. So contrary to the previous studies in 2013, our study is suggesting a slightly different perspective, so to speak. So we have here no gender difference, statistically, no statistically significant gender difference, because the standard deviations are overlapping. In a sense, the FCI scores have significant overlap. The means have, the spread of the means have significant overlap, such that there is no statistically significant difference between the two results. That is the FCI as a whole. Now, how about polarization? The polarization that we mentioned in the first part of this talk is about, of course, students preferring to answer, or choosing to answer, or choosing to select 2 choices out of the 5 choices. So we have around 70% of the students or so choosing 2 choices in a given question belonging to this polarized, to the set of polarizing questions. So what we found is that this sort of behavior is not unique to one gender. It is exhibited by male, and it is also exhibited by female. So the next question then is, which one exhibits a greater degree of polarization? So in our test, males tend to exhibit higher degree of polarization compared to females. Digging deeper into the data, we found that males tend to select that incorrect choice in the pair of polarizing choices. And that shifts the percentage, the proportion. It shifts the degree of polarization in favor of males. So they tend to be what should I say? They tend to be more confused, so to speak, compared to females. However, after the pretest, of course, we have the class, and then at the end of the semester, we would administer again this FCI. We found that there is no gender gap anymore. So upon using our chi-square test, the gap closes between males and females, and we don't have that gender gap, although we are open for further studies. So that's for the gender gap and polarization. Okay. We can ask questions later, I guess. You can ask questions depending on the, I guess someone is inviting them to ask questions. So they can ask the questions in our, here in our chat box. So the next thing that we would like to discuss or to cover is so-called the cognitive reflection test. So the cognitive reflection test is probably the most interesting of them all because it's some sort of stimulates our mind to think some more. And we have here a sample question again, sample similar question, and you might have already seen this one. So this question is about a pad paper and a sign pen. So a pad paper and a sign pen cost 110 pesos. The sign pen costs 100 pesos more than the pad paper. So how much does the pad paper cost? Let me repeat. You have here a pad paper and a sign pen, and in total, they cost 110 pesos. The sign pen costs 100 pesos more than the pad paper. And the question is, how much does the pad paper cost? So we'll not be answering this yet. We're going to cover a little bit so-called dual process theory. So the cognitive reflection test is originally a 3-item test developed by Shane Frederick to measure the tendency of a person to shift from system 1, the so-called intuitive system, to system 2, analytic, a reasonable, logical system, way of thinking. So what are these system 1 and system 2? We're going back to that question. So in dual process theory, this is psychology. Dual process theory, or DPT, posits two different ways by which we process thoughts, or thoughts can arise in two different ways. The first one is system 1, and we have here a system characterized by being fast, by being instinctive, and it can be emotional, right? So it's an emotional state of affairs. So examples of those questions are 5 times 6. Well, if you haven't encountered multiplication, of course, that would take some time probably. But for an adult, 5 times 6 is a no-brainer question. It's just 25? No, it's not 25. It is 30. And you can drive a car in an empty road. It's quite simple. When a person enters the room and this person is your friend, you can readily recognize that friend's face. And if you're given a question, Albert E, who is that Albert E, with the following blank spaces for the characters in the surname of this person, then Albert Einstein most likely. And so the system 1 is quite helpful. So that is the reason probably why it is there. Because when we are in danger, for instance, we don't have time to think sometimes, and we have to escape. For instance, if you see a laser light spot on your chest, what would be your response? Then probably you just have to run. That is simply instinctive in nature. On the other hand, a system 1 can be quite problematic when we apply it alone in dealing with a particular problem or a given situation. It can be emotional because we might get upset easily if we simply use system 1 alone. And that's the reason why we have the so-called system 2. I guess that I have a typographical error here, my apology. System 2 tends to be slow, and it is analytic in nature, and it is effortful. So there is a tendency for humans to go from system 1 to system 2. But there are situations wherein you bypass system 1 because there is simply no easy way to use system 1. For instance, you have here this situation where you ask to compute for the square root of 676. that would require some time, and you don't have a readily pre-cooked answer, so to speak, to this question, 676. And if you're parking in a tight space, you have to be careful. So system 2 is operational in that case. And if you're trying to find a bird in a very complicated picture, then probably you are using system 2. So we now know the difference between system 1 and system 2. So a short review of system 1 is fast, instinctive, and emotional. But I guess from an evolutionary perspective, it is helpful or can be helpful. And we have here system 2, that is analytic, reasonable, effortful. So let us now get back to the question. This is a sample similar question. A pad paper and a sign pen cost 110 pesos. The sign pen costs 100 pesos more than the pad paper. And how much does the pad paper cost? Well, the usual response based on the study of the authors of CRT is that we have here 110 pesos, 100 pesos for the pen and paper 10 pesos, which makes sense because you have here 100 and you have 10 here. So the total is 110. However, if we dig deeper, this is simply incorrect because the other one cost 100 pesos more than the pad paper. But if you subtract 110, what is the answer? The difference is 90, so that cannot be a correct answer. So you have this one. The difference is not 100, so the answer is incorrect. So based on our studies of our student, they tend to do some, scribbling to solve the problem. And you can see that the answer is 110 first. Then they go some sort of trial and error, and they're able to arrive at the correct answer. For some students, they use linear algebra. You have systems of equations, and you solve the problem, and you'll be able to get the correct answer. So for our information, the answer is 105 and 5 pesos. As you see, it is consistent. You have here, the total is 110. So this one is 110. And the difference is 105 minus 5, that is 100. So this one, we're now using system 2 in order to deal with this problem. A system that is slow, it is more logical, calculating, and analytic. Now, going back to this study of ours, we have now local students. I did this when I returned to the Philippines, and the degree programs are engineering students and chemistry students. We have a data for around 160 students, and we have the usual lecture, homework, in-class activities, tutorial, and so on. So the question is there a correlation between the scores in the cognitive reflection test, the CRT, and the set of polarizing questions in the FCI? So first things first, we have the whole FCI, and we would like to know if there is any correlation at all. The idea is that if you can override system 1 and go to system 2, and that is a good sign of intelligence. In fact, CRT is, to a good extent, it is a good measure of your ability to override. So it's a good measure of, it can be a good measure, maybe to be safe, the good measure of intelligence. So what we found is this number. We have here 0.24. R is 0.24, and there was another study on this, and we are overlapping, meaning we have here this 0.24. 0.24 is the correlation coefficient, and this one is far from 1, the ideal correlation between the two ideas or the two variables involved. And it is in the lower part of the spectrum of your correlation coefficient, but it is not 0. In other words, a low level of cognitive reflection test might drive a student to select intuitive answers that are wrong. This may then lead as one of the contributing factors to a low FCI score. And that low FCI score corresponds to this low correlation coefficient. But then the low correlation coefficient, as I'm trying to say, is not equal to 0. So there is some sort of, should I say, some sort of possible relationship between the two in such a way that if you have here this greater ability, a greater drive to override system 1 and go to system 2, then there is a higher likelihood for you to find the correct answer. Because some of the questions in the FCI, the other choices are choices that could possibly confuse you, quote unquote. And if you can, those choices can be activated by, can be the choice when you are using system 1. But the thing is, there are so many choices that belong to that one. So you have 5 choices, right? And out of the 5 choices, only one is correct. So even if you are able to remove some of the choices, incorrect choices, the ability to land to the correct answer is not warranted. So in fact, if we go to the so-called polarizing choices, so this is FCI as a whole, have the polarizing choices, the correlation drops down to 0.096, and we were puzzled. But upon deeper inspection of the student responses, we found, as what I've already stated earlier, that students find 5 out of 6 polarizing questions to be the most difficult questions. In other words, even if you can override system 1 and go to system 2, that does not guarantee that you'll be able to find the right answer. So, for instance, if you don't know how to calculate the square root anyway, so it's numerical calculation. So find the square root of 5 to 5 decimal places. And so you activate system 2 in that one, but that is not sufficient to find the correct answer. So we contend that on top of the ability to shift from system 1 to system 2 is the need for deep understanding of physics concepts or ideas to pinpoint the right set of forces acting on a given body. So as I was trying to say, the ability to move from system 1 to system 2 can be helpful in answering the questions in the FCI. But if you really don't know the answer, because some of the answers cannot be answered by simply thinking it over, you did not study, then you still will not be able to find the correct answer. And that is our explanation for the relatively low correlation between FCI and the polarizing questions. And the low correlation compared to the FCI as a whole is justified by the difficulty of the polarizing questions relative to the other questions in the FCI. So let me just re-emphasize the main point. The ability to shift from system 1 to system 2 is not enough. You have to study hard. So these are the main points of my talk. And I guess I finished early. I would like to thank everyone for making this talk possible. So thank you very much.
Right, thank you so much, Sir Allan.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that wonderful presentation. So now, I hope everyone is still there. Can you give me a thumbs up if you're still there and you are ready for our icebreaker challenge today? You'll win a GCash of 100 pesos. So we have 5 questions right now, and then so before we start, no, you will need to answer the question by chatting on the chat box. Okay? So, before mag-answer, yung mga IOP members, we will have a line that will cut off, just like what Ma'am Rhea did right now sa chat, that will cut off the cascade of chats ngayon. Like that, okay? So when the line starts, that will be the start of the populating of answers. That will be the start of the answers that you will populate the chat box. Okay, so you have to be aware, no, and wary on that line. Kasi yun yung start. Okay, so since I see so much or many thumbs up, I think they're ready, no, Sir Allan? I will now share the screen for the Icebreaker Challenge. Okay, so later on, we will be asking the winners of their GCash number so we can wire you or transfer to you the 100 pesos. So each question will have 2 winners for today. We have 5 questions that I will be showing on the screen. Okay, are you ready? Okay, are you ready, guys? Let's have a react. Wag lang sa chat box na. React of a thumbs up to everyone. Wag sa chat box kasi the chat box will be the answers na. So a react of a thumbs up is sufficient for you that we know that you are there. Aware na meron tayong icebreaker challenge. All right. So let's begin. Okay, be wary ha. We will start the line. And then when the line starts dun sa chat box, you will start to populate your answer. The first 2 will be given 100 pesos each GCash prize. Okay, so let me share my screen. Let's have, this is in relation, let's have question 1. This is in relation to Sir Allan's presentation today. Kung nakikinig kayo, it will be easy peasy for you guys. Okay, are you ready? I'm sharing my screen so I cannot see the line, no? So Ma'am Rhea and Sir Arvin will facilitate the winners today on the names of the winners today. But I will flash on the screen right now yung questions. Okay, shall we begin? Shall we begin, Ma'am Rhea? Just give me a thumbs up.
Okay, start na, Mama Ran.
Okay, let's start. For the first question, okay, with 100 pesos GCash for the first 2 winners, first question is, question number 1. The blank was developed by Hestenes, Halun, Wells, and Schwackhammer in 1985 to assess students' conceptual understanding of Newtonian mechanics. It is a 30-item multiple-choice set of questions mainly focusing on force and kinematics nowadays, considered as the de facto standard for concept inventories. Okay, please answer on the chat box. So again, the question is, the blank was developed by Hestenes, Halun, Wells, and Schwackhammer in 1985 to assess students' conceptual understanding of Newtonian mechanics. It is a 30-item multiple-choice set of questions, mainly focusing on force and kinematics, nowadays considered as the de facto standard for concept inventories.
Okay, we already have a winner.
Okay, we already
Si
have the
Ma'am
winner.
Marjorie Omlana and Rita Elacion.
Okay,
So
congratulations.
I will get their information sa chat box na lang.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Maria. So the answer to that, guys, is the force concept inventory, or FCI, as Sir Allan has discussed a while ago. Okay, thank you so much for answering. For the others, you have still chance, no? 4 more chances to win the 100 pesos GCash prize. Okay, for the second question, ready na? Okay, for second question. Question 2. Consider a pendulum attached to the ceiling at point O, swinging from a previous higher point to its current location P. Ignoring air resistance, which of the following forces are acting on the pendulum at that instant shown, at this instant? 1, downward force of gravity. 2, tensional force due to the string from P to O. 3, force along the direction of its motion. So the choices are, okay, you can just put in the choice in the chat box. A, 1 only. B, 2 only. C, 1 and 3. D, 1 and 2, E, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. I think the answer here was stated a while ago by Sir Allan. So if you are listening if you were listening a while ago, this is easy peasy. No, easy 100. Gcash. Any winners, Maria?
We are seeing here polarization as well. The
Okay.
majority of the the audience response are letter D and letter E. So we
D.
have two choices.
This
Yes.
is a
Reminder dan sa
Mhm.
yung ating mechanics, they have to wait for the line before they send their answers. So we have
Yes.
Phil, Remuel, and
Mhm.
also Hart. They are the first ones to answer. So it's amazing na nakita din yung polarization. Their
So
answers.
so your case study is now we are finding out the experiment data na it's true. The polarization is true even now, no? So I think, sir, not only in 2017, 2020, but also in 2024 during our seminar, we can see the polarization. Okay, so guys, good job sa dalawa. Again, you have to start your answer when you see the line given by Ma'am Rhea Mero. Okay? So for question 3, you still have 3 more chances for others who have not yet taken the prize. Question 3. Immediately preceding question 2, which of the choices are the polarizing choices? A and B, B and C, C and D, D and E, and E, A, B, and E. Okay, so you have the data from previous chat messages, yung polarizing choices. And I think you know too well what's the answer of question number 3, since we have this evidence, no, from the previous data in the chat box on the polarizing choices. Any winners now, Ma'am Maria?
Yes, the two persons after I put the line, it's Conry, Berchiel, and Franco Luis.
Okay,
no, sorry, not Franco. So it's. Can you flash the answer, Ma'am Ren?
the answer is, of course, D. Yung polarizing choices
Sorry,
is
not Conry. Mali ako.
okay lang.
Franco. So he answered E. So Franco got it right first. E, and also Franco Luis, and also Kirsten Joyce.
Okay.
Okay.
Franco
So for
and
those people, please PM me your GCash number. So IOP Rhea, yung aking name. Please find it sa chat box and then PM me so that I can easily find your GCash number and send it to you. So thank you, everyone. My next questions pa.
yes, there's 2 more for those na willing to get these prizes, and we'll answer the question after ni Ma'am Maria malagay yung line. Okay? That's our instruction for today. Okay, for question 2, ready na? For question 2, you need to type the answer. In dual process theory, there are 2 systems invoked or used in answering problems or dealing with situations. Which system is most likely used in solving a problem about the value of the square root of 35? Again, the question is, in dual process theory, there are 2 systems invoked, as Sir Allan discussed a while ago, or used in answering problems or dealing with situations. So which system is most likely used in solving a problem about the value of the square root of 35? You should type in the answers. So which system? System blank. Okay, may nagpopulate na ba, Ma'am Rhea, before I flash the answer on the
Yes, yes,
screen?
yes.
Okay. All right. So the answer is System 2. So moving from System 1, you have to get a deeper understanding of physics to shift from System 1 to System 2. But as Sir Allan said, you can bypass System 1 to System 2, but you have a high probability to get a wrong answer in the question. Okay, so any winners?
Wait lang.
Win
Naghang yung computer ko sa daming nagsagot. Okay, we have Abrilyn.
uh-huh.
Okay. Na mag-react ako ng thumbs up to those winners, and then please send me your GCash number. And we also have Josel Bartolay, our second winner of the GCash for question number 4.
Okay, congratulations to mga winners. Now we have a final question, question 5, that you need to pick up pen and paper, or if you were listening a while ago, then you will know the answer automatically, no? Because it's part of the discussion a while ago. And you need to, again, write down the answer. It's not a multiple question choice or multiple choice question. Okay, so for the final question, for the 100 pesos GCash, a pad paper and a sign pen cost 120 pesos. The sign pen cost 100 pesos more than the pad paper. So how much does the pad paper cost? Again, a pad paper and a sign pen cost 120 pesos. The sign pen cost 100 pesos more than the pad paper. So how much does the pad paper cost in pesos? Okay, not dollars. Ha. All right. So, Ma'am Rhea, are there any winners right now? So question number
Yes,
5.
it's
Before I close.
Connolly Bershel and Josel Bartolay again, but I think let's choose the next two kasi tapos na
Next
sila.
two, yes. Sorry guys, no multiple multiple winners today. Na ano.
Okay, so Marjorie Osal and also mabibilis tong mga kamay na to. Si Kristen, also our winner a while ago. So
Uh-huh.
I'll choose the next one, si
This
Brent.
one.
Okay, Brent
Okay.
Richmond.
Brent and Richmond. So the answer to this is 10 pesos, as Sir Allan discussed a while ago sa kanyang presentation. So congratulations to the 10 winners. We will need your GCash number so we can wire transfer right now while doing the forum or after the forum of this seminar. So I think I'm good na, and we are set for the forum discussions together with Senator Allinea. Okay. So, Sir Allan, I hope you're ready now to answer the questions from our audience. We encourage everyone to put your questions in the chat box or unmute yourself right now if you will have any questions for our open forum discussion with Sir Allan Allinea.
They're really very fast. I mean, they answer the questions very fast. Even the last question, they got it correct right away. Although we would see system 1 in action as well, because some of the answers are 120, which is incorrect. Okay, so if you have questions right now, I will try my best to answer the questions.
My question po kanina, I think,
My
let
question
me
kanina. Okay.
let me scroll up, sir. But it's more of saan ata nakikita. Okay, this question is from Rica Elacion to everyone. Good morning,
Okay.
everyone. How to access po a copy of that FCI?
Well, if you are an instructor, I can email you a copy of the FCI. But you can just Google it, in fact, and you can get a copy of the FCI. So just email me, allinea@up.edu.ph, and I can send you a copy of the FCI. Just would like to visit your school website and identify you as an instructor in that particular school, and we can send you a copy of the FCI, I guess. Okay.
Okay, any questions from so we encourage everyone to ask questions. You may drop your questions on the chat box or ask them live during the Q&A portion. Or right now, it's the Q&A portion.
So there is a question here, Ma'am Renabeth. Is the FCI is force and kinematics, is it applicable to other topics? No, it's not. You have to use some other concept inventory. So I guess there are separate test inventory for electromagnetism and some other parts of modern physics. Probably you have also a corresponding concept inventory or mathematics inventory for introductory mathematics. They're quite interesting, actually. I've seen some questions in mathematics, and it's not something you can easily answer by just looking at it. You really have to know more about calculus, for instance, being integral being the area under the curve, and so on and so forth. So the target of FCI is really the introductory part. The first part of physics, forces, you have the three laws of motion and kinematics. Like which one is accelerating faster compared to the other? What are the forces acting on this particular system? And identify the pathway or the path of the particle when it is released from some systems, say a cannonball or something like that, or an object released from a moving plane, what will be the trajectory of that one? Or when you kick a ball, what will happen to the trajectory of that one? So those kinds of questions are mainly on the foundational parts of physics. So you have the concept inventory there being the main focus of whether we understand those things or not. And if we are past that one, you have separate mechanics-based something exam. I don't know the exact name of that one, but we have separate tests for that one. Just Google and some sort of force concept inventory or mechanics-based concept inventory on Google. Type in on Google and you'll be able to find all those kinds of inventory.
So a follow-up question, Sir Allan, is that
Yes.
it's still called FCI?
What?
Yung the force for the force and kinematics to other topics, is it still called FCI?
No, it's no longer called FCI. You have some other test for that one. I guess there is a mechanics something test that is for a larger, it covers a larger part of mechanics. But FCI is distinctive in a sense that it only covers the introductory conceptual part of mechanics.
Any more questions from the audience?
There's a
Okay,
couple
thank
more
you, questions. Sige po, sir. Yes?
Yeah. So from Ricardo Cordova, I have encountered the dual process theory in making ethical and moral decisions in which it is more obvious. Can you explain its relation more in this context?
In what context? Is it physics context? I don't know
Ethical,
how.
yeah. So it was encountered like in making ethical and moral decisions in which it is more obvious. Can you explain its relation more in this context?
So I don't know
Maybe
if I can confidently answer about the ethical and moral decisions because we are not dealing with ethical and moral decisions, at least in introductory physics. But of course, if you're going to create a nuclear power plant, then you'll have to think about the ethical and moral decisions associated with building a nuclear power plant in the Philippines, for instance. But our main concern here in the dual process theory, actually, it was the cognitive reflection test was published in some sort of economics journals about decision making of people, about long-term and short-term decisions that they may make, and its relationship with our ability to override system one and move on to system two. So the initial idea was that we have the cognitive reflection test, and if students tend to score higher in cognitive reflection tests, what would that say about the score in the FCI? And what happened in our studies that students scored very high actually in CRT. We have a mechanism to filter if they have already encountered that question. So our motivation was actually, we're going to give you a bonus points for answering this cognitive reflection test, and we will not remove the bonus points, but you have to tell us if you have already encountered this cognitive reflection test. So they're quite honest because there is no deduction anyway. And they scored quite high in the cognitive reflection test, maybe because of the mathematical inclination of the questions in the CRT. But the correlation with the FCI is relatively low. It's only 0.24. So there is some sort of correlation, but it's quite low, meaning that the subject matter of physics, as what we mentioned earlier, is not simply a matter of being able to activate system 2, but there are simply questions that you don't know if you haven't studied hard for that particular set of exams or set of questions. So yun yung idea para sa aming study nitong cognitive reflection test. So in a sense, it's not a so positive result. It is a null result to some extent. The reviewer actually, our initial paper was that there is not much to see from this correlation, but the reviewer was rejecting our proposed idea because their paper, I guess, they are the authors of the other paper where we have overlapping, the scope of the study are similar, and they found a correlation. But their correlations are not actually very high as well. But if we perform statistical tests, our correlation coefficient significantly overlaps with their correlation coefficients. So the tone of our paper is then there is a slight correlation, and we cannot declare that the null correlation between the two. Because, well, rightfully, it's not actually zero. It's 0.24. And if you look at the standard deviation of this correlation coefficients, actually overlapping with other results. So partly, we can only say that partly there is a contribution from the ability to override system 1 to system 2, but that is not the only contributing factor in being able to to find the correct answer. So that's my answer.
Ma'am Renabeth, there's a couple of other questions po like in the chat box. Maybe I can read the first one. So
Yes, sir.
from Apeth Pasatiempo. Grabe napaka-Hispanic naman nung family name. So the FCI is from research data collected in Japan, correct? So her question really is that was there a study was there a study done in the Philippines?
Actually, the first two papers, or the last two papers in my previous slide, they were done in Japan. But after returning here in the Philippines, I also did a study on the FCI. And if you browse Google, you'll be able to see actually some people doing FCI in the Philippines. So it is also used in the Philippines and not unique to Japan. We have also several professors and physics educators using the FCI for their studies. And I guess I've already encountered this question when I was an undergraduate, but I was not familiar, and just after some sort of recollection, I already encountered this question, and someone did an inventory force concept inventory. I guess it's the study of Sir Marvin Herrera. He did some physics education research when I was a student here in UPLB. And I don't know what score I got from that FCI. I thought it was very easy, but I did not manage to find the score. Maybe just average, I don't know. So, and then I implemented here again the Philippines. One student in my class of 160 students, I guess it's 80 plus 80 different classes, got a perfect score. But that's the overall score. That's actually not a mechanics class. It was an electromagnetic theory. They're supposed to be done with their physics 71, the classical mechanics or Newtonian mechanics. And I just tried it on electromagnetism class to see if they understood physics 71. And the average was in the middling, not so high and not so low. But that's the idea behind this one. Even if we know how to compute, for instance, for the acceleration, it appears that we do not fully understand the foundational conceptual ideas of mechanics. So to answer the question, there were a lot of studies. Well, not a lot, but significant number of studies, maybe 3 to 5 studies done in the Philippines. And if I'm not wrong, there's even a Filipino version of the FCI. So FCI has been translated to many other languages. And I guess there is a Filipino version that I came along one time when I was studying this FCI for the implementation here in the Philippines.
Okay. Miranda Beth, there's a long question po. It's the very last one. Maybe you can take that on.
Okay, so for the last question you have here, as a physics teacher, I am worried about some students who can't appreciate physics due to its reputation for being a hard subject. It is also possibly because of the mathematical foundation it requires and its unseen application to biology and chemistry. Does this add into the misconceptions in physics?
Well, it's a very good question. It's multifaceted in nature, and I hope I can give an insight about this question. Well, it can be a very hard subject matter, and the idea here is that the question is about possibly because of the mathematical foundation it requires. Well, to be clear, physics cannot be as a whole entity, as a whole subject without mathematics. It's intertwined with mathematics. And not so long time ago, physics, I guess there was no clear distinction. You have this man doing mathematics, women doing mathematics and physics, and it's just called one subject. I don't know if the name was physics during that time. So I agree that it is part of the challenges that physics is intertwined with mathematics. And the fact that physics starts out with analysis mainly, right? So in some other classes, you can ask questions like, what year did Magellan reach the Philippines? You can ask questions like that. In physics, you can ask, what is the unit of force? But that is just one of the questions invoking some sort of the basic knowledge that is memory. But in physics, we have, of course, the central focus would be find the acceleration, or what is the main force? What is the net force acting on the system? For that one, you need mathematics. And I would say that if you are thinking of misconceptions. Misconceptions are actually usually applied to conceptual underpinnings of physics. And that is an interesting question because that opens up possibilities for research where you have this misconception into mathematics, no, in combination with physics. Normally, ang ating studies sa physics I separate yung mathematics and meron kang separate na physics for the researchers to easily analyze a set of data. But I would say that I'm in agreement that this can be an addition to the misconceptions in physics. Well, I don't know if that term would be rightful to be called misconceptions because this will now be a hybrid of misconceptions, quantitative and qualitative in nature. So the answer is, from my side, my insight is yes. But that is another layer of complication into probably a purely conceptual perspective into physics. So you can think of physics on a conceptual ground, the introductory part, and test for the misconceptions or preconceptions of students into that part. Now, once they are over that one, you can now move on probably the one that includes the mathematical aspect of the understanding or difficulty of understanding of physics. So that's it. I agree to the question. This can add to the misconceptions or difficulty in understanding physics. And I would suggest that you perform a study on this because that would be a multifaceted research question about physics. Thank you.
And maybe, sir, we can add, kasi Ma'am Josel added some context now to back that question.
Yes.
So, like for example, photosynthesis requires light for the said process to begin. However, light being a wave is not sufficient to explain the photosynthesis. Light behaving as a particle is not introduced until such time when the idea of either quantum mechanics or special relativity is introduced. Biology teachers, in my experience in a science high school, did not explain this phenomenon as well until such time that I majored in physics and understood why photosynthesis works. So siguro po, this is always a question of when is it the right time to
Mm.
also introduce like more complex topics no when teaching allied fields such as like biology. So, kailan po ba yan? Siguro I would like, this is like a very good topic for further
Yes.
conversation kasi kayo po,
Mm.
you teach sa higher education, ano po. And
Mm.
based on my experience when I went to UP, actually when I went to UP, I learned a few things in undergrad, but when I went to grad school, some of these formalisms were debunked. So, paano po ba yan, sir? When do you think would it be the right time to uh, incorporate more complex topics?
Well, we have competing ideas about that one. One school of thought is,
Yeah.
of course, the spiral approach, no? So mag-start ka sa simple set of ideas, and then you go to the same set of ideas, but then deeper, and then you go again to the same set of ideas, and then even more deep into the subject matter. So importante dito yung ating prerequisite, no? And I'm actually worried with the we are still quite young into the transition K to 12. So ang nangyari sa atin is nagkaroon ng major restructuring ang ating university courses. And of course, yung ating mga prerequisites are quite, maybe there's some sort of alignment that we have to do. For instance, engineering students typically take modern physics. I mean, in the past, prior to K to 12. But in the transition to K to 12, our curricular structure changed so that the modern physics is almost omitted from the set of courses that they take from the Institute of Physics. I'm pretty much worried about that one. So for photosynthesis, I guess we have, of course, to have some sort of deep understanding of classical, of course, and modern physics, because as mentioned by Ma'am Giselle Bartolay, it takes some time for one to understand the subject matter. So I guess meron tayong different levels of understanding, no? So ang una mong understanding, for instance, sa mechanics, is that, for instance, mass and momentum are constants. So this momentum is simply mv, and then later on you go to higher understanding. So what happened to Ma'am Jocelyn is that is what we expect. So initially you have this level of understanding of photosynthesis, and then you go deeper later by deeper understanding of physics and chemistry and biology of this photosynthesis. And so they are interlocked, so to speak, to have a better understanding of how things work. So they say it takes a long time to actually picture hydrogen and oxygen in H2O. So at the start, you just, well, it's composed of hydrogen and oxygen, and that's it. But then later on, you'll be, then you have electron, for instance, orbiting a proton, and you are imagining an actual orbit. And as you dig deeper into the system, you take probably higher physics courses or higher chemistry courses, these orbits are replaced by orbitals. So you have probability distribution, clouds of electrons associated with your atom. And so that's, I guess, the way we learn in the process of understanding this complex phenomenon like this, complex process like this photosynthesis. But if you are implying that there should be a prerequisite to understand photosynthesis, my answer is of course yes. And we can only do so much in our courses. And we explain the photoelectric effect, the special theory of relativity, and so on and so forth. That could be helpful in understanding, for instance, this process of photosynthesis, and for instance, the orbital distributions for your gold that cannot be explained by without using relativistic ideas. So those things are necessary. So we go deeper and deeper, and that's the way it is, I guess. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that in-depth and thorough explanation, Sir Allan Allinea. And I and I think that's the end of our um, forum discussion as time permits. Can we have a closing remarks with Sir Jeff from PhilSci Hub?
Okay, all right. Maraming salamat po. So, I would like to introduce myself for those who dialed into a PhilSci Hub webinar. So I am Jeffrey Bunkin. I am a Filipino scientist po based here in Houston, Texas, and I'm the founder of the Filipino Science Hub. So it's a nonprofit organization. Actually, it started as an online platform about 13 years ago. And what we've actually been doing over the course of the past 5 years, most especially, is that we've been bringing our STEM teacher and students communities closer to institutions such as the Institute of Physics of the University of the Philippines, to make contents like this accessible to all of you. And so we thank the UP Institute of Physics for this partnership. This has been, I think, the third year that we've been doing this. Naghahatid po kami ng mga material na magagamit ng mga guro at mga mag-aaral para mas ma-elevate pa natin yung physics teaching and education in the country. And we're also cooking up some potential collaborations moving forward. So hopefully next year. And ito nabanggit kanina, no, napakalaking parte ng math, for example, sa maayos sa pagturo at pagkatuto ng physics. So one thing that I would also like to share with all of you is that in conversation with Ma'am Rhea, from the Institute of Physics, she also mentioned that like math preparation is very important. So starting next month po, we are holding monthly math tutorials and we're starting with vectors. Kasi it turns out challenge din yan sa physics. Narinig namin yung feedback from IOP. So marami po tayong pagsasamahan pa moving forward on a monthly basis. We are hoping to be able to offer you math and physics materials, so watch out. Tuloy-tuloy po itong collaboration with the Institute of Physics. And muli, maraming salamat po. And ayun po, we hope that you actually share this experience with others as well, because marami po magbe-benefit dito sa acts of public service ng Institute of Physics Extension Committee. So this is something that's very dear to that's very close to the core of that institute. So talaga pong naghahatid ng serbisyo para sa ating mga kababayan. So maraming salamat po. And I know that there is, Ma'am Renibeth is going to be plugging yung session natin for next week.
Yes, sir. Sharing my screen again. Can you see my screen, guys? Give me a thumbs up if the screen for the next sessions is clear on your end. Okay. So for the next session, since na-move nga yung ating session due to the typhoon, it would be around next week, Saturday, same time. And we will have our featured speaker, Sir Al Balitaon from our very own institute, Institute of Physics, UPLB. On, if you can read it, in the reading ability is tested here. So an exploration, the influence of reading ability on student achievement in physics. So you can see the practice here, the evidence that you can see. If you can read it, then you have this reading ability. And if the students can have this achievement of reading ability, can it be translated to physics? Ayan. So I hope we will see you next week at the same time, Saturday. And before that, before the end, we have a token of appreciation, like a highlight to Sir Allinea for his well thought and good discussion a while ago. So I will go back to the first slide. So we would like to thank Sir Allan Allinea for his discussion on the polarization of physics, FCI, gender gap, and cognitive reflection test on global courses. For here for a feature as a feature speaker in our first IOP seminar in PhilSci Hub on debunking physics misconceptions, real versus real. So let's give Sir Allinea our hearts, our reactions, our thumbs up reactions for carving a time for us to explain this polarization of physics, gender gap, and cognitive reflection test in physics. Thank you, Sir Allinea.
Thank you
Yan.
so much, Sir Allan. And maybe
Thank you,
pwede
thank you.
tayo mag-group picture. So if everyone's
Okay.
up for it, maybe request those who are actually willing and comfortable to um turn their cameras on para meron po tayong group photo. Ayan.
Ayan. So everyone, may we request you to turn on your camera for a while, no, and let your brightest smiles to show on the screen so we can capture the moment for today as our very own first seminar for our institute, IOP, UPLB, as in PhilSci Hub. Okay, so
Sino po ba magte-take cam?
I can have it if you like, sir. I can have the screen
Sige po.
share.
Ayun na lang, ma'am.
Sige po. So everyone, can we have your we can wait for a few minutes, sir, so they can turn on their cameras.
Sige po.
Yan, magbabasa tayo ng messages habang nagto-turn on sila ng camera. Okay, so you can have your attendance form in the Google chat given by Sir Jeff. Attendance
Apo.
forms here. We need that if you want some certificates po. Ayan.
Yung
And also,
cognitive reflection test, Ma'am Renepeth, some people are asking, and luckily nasa Wikipedia na yung CRT, kaya ang hirap nang i-administer ng CRT kasi parang known na yung part na yun. So you really have to ask your students kung nabasa na nila yung questions and first time ba nilang mag-answer ng cognitive reflection test. Yung cognitive reflection test kasi is medyo ano siya, interesting sagutan eh. Pero yung FCI is not so common to students kasi why would they browse an exam? So you do not normally want to take an exam. So why would they take an exam? So FCI, we can send you a copy of the FCI, I guess. Just send me your email and we'll try to see your profile if you are a professor or an educator of physics, and I guess we can send a copy of the FCI. Kung kailangan natin ng permission from the authors, we can actually ask permission from the authors to send you a question for the inventory, I mean.
Ayan. Okay, so we had like more than 100 participants po today between Zoom and YouTube. So Sir Allan, nadagdagan na naman ng mahigit 100 ng fans mo.
I hope,
And
hopefully not.
expect more than 100 emails requesting for a copy of the FCI. So we're hoping po that you enjoyed this session, and then sana magkita-kita po ulit tayo next week kasi next week is another exciting topic. Actually, ang speaker po natin ay dormmate ko nung ako ay nasa UP pa. So, very small world. Alright, ready na po ba tayo sa ating photo opportunity?
all right, so I would request everyone to turn on again your cameras and we will start the 4 slides here that I'm showing on the screen, yung mga photos ninyo. Okay, so show your brightest smiles and hold for a moment, no? Okay, for slide 1, okay, smile. Next one. Next one. May naghabol pa, wait lang. Wait lang po, may naghabol pa ng mga pictures. Wait lang po ha, naglo-load kasi sa aking side. Okay, saglit lang po.
Kasi Ma'am Rhea, meron siyang mga emojis na I don't know how you do it. I'm not that literate sa Zoom, pero
Nasa reacts po, sir. Nasa
ano
reacts.
po ba yun? Alright,
Yes,
ayan.
sir.
Okay,
Pwede
we'll
pong
learn this at some point.
yeah, pwede pong magpatulong kasi yung ibang pictures sa aking side, on my side,
Yes.
ay blocked. So, can I have others like Sir Sir Arvin, Ma'am Maria to also take a photo kasi hindi
Ayun.
pa load yung ibang images.
Apo.
Thank
And
you.
also, so we're gonna make this a monthly habit po. So we're gonna try our best to come up with at least like a physics topic. Yep. And then, so ang mga kasama po natin ngayon ay mga taga-Institute of Physics. We are also cooking up at least 3 sessions for next year, focused naman on STEM pedagogy. So we're inviting friends from Philippine Normal University. So we know that marami rin po kasi tayong mga members dito that are physics teachers. So babalansehin po natin yan. So mastery of physics concepts from our friends from in the Institute of Physics. And then we're also bringing in pedagogical experts. Yan. Meron pa po ba kayong tanong? Opportunity niyo po to habang tayo ay magkakasama pa sa Zoom. May mga nagbubukas pa ng camera.
Yes po, may nagbubukas pa. May tanong dito kung paano daw maging member ng inyong organization, sir.
So at this point po, I mean, there's no formal membership mechanism, but we were an online community. So punta lang po kayo sa website namin, www.philscihub.com. We also have our Facebook page. Nandun po namin madalas pinopost yung ang mga announcements for events as well as mga contents kasi we also roll out as mentioned, like in the introductory video, meron po kami mga teaching modules na niro-roll out as well as basic training programs on research. That's also like one thing that we realized na medyo lacking din po sa atin sa basic education. Medyo wala po talagang practical research teaching material. So yun po yung ginagawa namin. By the way, Dr. Connie Hibas, who's the head of our biology programs, is also here in the call. She's calling in from San Antonio, Texas. So she also has an up-and-coming webinar on December 7th. So she's going to be talking about emerging diseases, fungal diseases. So she's a world-class mycology expert. Ayan. And coming from the Philippines din po. All right.
All right. So may nag-comment dito, sir, na I wish I should have known earlier as possible that an organization like this exists. Thank you so
Opo,
much.
it's never too late po. Ano po, we're here to stay. Gagawin po natin to hanggang mag-retire kami ni Mama Connie. Ayun po. And then, we're gagawin natin to for as long as like we also have like the active partnerships like this, like with the University of the Philippines. So, and among other institutions na talaga pong nagmamahal sa bayan at gustong ma-elevate yung quality ng STEM education sa atin. All right.
Thank you, sir. And then for those asking e-certificates for this session, yes, we will
Yes, sure.
have production of e-certificates that will be distributed for the attendees today.
Apo, and make sure po so that you answer the Google form. And by the way, doon po nila kukunin yung information sa inyong certificate. So be mindful po of yung spelling ng inyong mga pangalan kasi what's in there will be what's reflecting on your certificates. All right?
Right. And
May
then
nag-raise po ng hand. Okay. May question po ba kayo, sir?
Yes po, sir. Good morning po sa lahat. I just want to ask if there will be an available recorded video
Yes,
na.
sir. So this was also live streaming on YouTube, so you can find it on our YouTube channel para ma-replay niya po.
Yes, sir. Because I like the idea presented to us when we are trying to connect the discussion kanina yung sa physics to biology to chemistry and then how to explain the topic like photosynthesis connecting to the concepts from those different discipline po. So I'd like to refresh po sana. Thank you po, sir.
Actually, the link po is on pag kinlik nyo yung attendance form, it brings you to our website. Nandun din po yung link para sa recording. So it makes it easier for everyone to access everything like all in one place. Ayan. Maraming salamat po, sir. Ayan, Sir Allan. O yung mga teachings mo immortalized na. I-replay pa nila.
I don't want media exposure, pero I mean,
Sir,
it
kailangan
can be
yan
helpful
para sa bayan.
para sa bayan. Okay.
Alright. Okay, maraming. This is fun. This has been like very fun. Meron pa po tayong a total of 4 events till the end of the year. So watch out po. Another physics, yung session 2 nito with Alba Litaon, mycology session with Mama Connie Hibas, and then we have our introductory vectors tutorial from a professor in our Institute of Mathematics from UP. Ayan po. So may bridging po ito. Yung pong sinabi nila Ma'am Rhea na hirap yung students sa physics on vectors, hinanapan po natin ng solusyon. Meron po tayong online tutor on vectors. 2 sessions po yon. First on December 8th, and I think second is on January 4th. And then kada buwan po yun. Kung ano pong request nyo, actually mag-request po kayo ng topic sa math na gusto nyo. Yun po yung i-cover natin. Ay, naku, na-highlight naman ako. Gulat naman ako doon. Alright. Okay, maraming salamat po uli sa pagsama sa amin. Maraming salamat po sa pag-spend ng 2 oras ng inyong Sabado. We don't intend to hold you for much longer para po ma-enjoy nyo inyong mga tanghalian. So see you po uli next week, same time, 9:30 in the morning.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And I would like to tell the people na tell to everyone na if you want to have the recording of this and the links to the others to PhilSci Hub, you can also visit our Facebook page, UPLB IOP IOP CAS UPLB. Yun po yung aming Institute of Physics. Thank you so much.
Alright. Okay po.
Alright.
Follow nyo po ang IOP and also the Institute of Mathematics. Alright.
All right. Thank you so much, Sir Jeff. And together with Mama Connie here and Ma'am Connie and Sir Allan and Allinea, our Extension Committee, si Ma'am Rhea and Sir Arvin, we would like to thank you all for joining our first seminar as IOP in the PhilSci Hub. I hope to see you again next week. May nagtatanong kung November 30 ba? Yes, even though it's a holiday, there's no holiday for us for this PhilSci Hub. This is a non-government organization.
Thanksgiving sa amin.
Yes.
Habang
Thanksgiving.
habang naghahapunan kami, magtotok po ang ating mga kaibigan sa Institute of Physics. Ayan.
That was very interesting, Dr. Allinea.
Oh,
Yep.
thank you.
And it triggered a lot of like very good conversations po. And like one thing that I really noticed was sabi ko, I find it difficult to follow the topic. Siguro po ang tagal ko nang wala sa academia, no? Pero nakakatuwa kasi ang bilis nilang sumagot. So meaning nakikinig talaga sila. So
Yeah, yung System 1 and System 2. So nasagot talaga nilang mabilis. Tapos yung last question is remarkably, hindi kasi yun yung question na pinost talaga doon sa mismong presentation. So they really have to solve it inside their head. And they were able to answer. Kasi yung nasa initial question is 110. Yung actual na question na binigay is 120, right? So mabilis sumagot yung ating audience.
Opo, matatalino po talaga ang ating mga guro at ating mga mag-aaral. So ayan, maraming nakikinig
So,
po.
sir,
Kikinig.
kailangan daw nila makita again yung Zoom links. So, can I share it again, sir? Yung slides para makita nila yung QR code? It's okay?
Ano po ba yung for the registration po for next time?
Yes, for next So, i-share ko na lang muna para makita nyo. So, guys, if you like to share, kasi ang daming nagtatanong on the chat box. So, here is sorry. Sorry, sir. Iba pala yung na-share. Wait lang.
I also shared it po sa chat box yung registration link
Yeah.
para po sa session 2. Ayan. Ayan, picturean nyo na po yung QR code.
Yes, so here is the QR code. Again, it is moved 7 days after kasi due to the typhoon. So it's November 30, next Saturday, 9:30 a.m. Manila time.
And I believe Sir Allan Balitaon is a math and science teaching major.
Yeah.
Ayan.
MST po siya.
Yes. Ayan. So, exciting. So we hope to see you all again next week po. Same time. All right. We hope that
Makitain na lang kayo sa amin.
it's Thanksgiving in the US during that session po. Ayan.
Yung
Okay.
affiliation daw, ano daw ilalagay na affiliation sa attendance?
Yeah.
Sa school po yan. Sa school. Ang alam ko sa school mo, di ba?
School po nila yun.
Yes. And
Ayun,
sorry po
marami
na,
yung nagtatanong ng affiliation.
yeah, affiliation. So nandun po yun sa attendance form and yung feedback form. Okay. And sorry po sa Griffiths na napunta. May nakakilala sa aking na post kanina. Nag-check po kasi ako, sorry. Griffiths po yung kanina. Pero ito po yung para sa next month. Ay, next week. Thank you.
Alright.
see.
Maraming salamat po. Thank you so much, team.
Thank you very much.
See you again. Ay, mag-picture po tayong 5.
Si Sir
Ayan.
Si Sir Arvin din, nandito rin
Asan
si
po
Sir
ba si Sir
Arvin.
Arvin? Sir Arvin, magparamdam ka. Ayan. Asan ba yun? Spotlight na, sir. Alright. Bibilang po ako. 1, 2, 3. Ayan. Thank you so much, everyone. And so at this
Thank
point,
you.
we're concluding our session for today. Magtanghalian na po kayo and see you all next week.
Bye. See you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.